Well, we've got a full house, gang. That's pretty impressive. They should have put that around into the big one. I think we could have held the big room, don't you think? Welcome, everyone, to How to Succeed in the Drama Goldrush. Over the next hour, we are going to be talking about the golden era of drama and how British producers can maximise the opportunities. And to discuss that, we've got quite a panel. We've got Andy Harris, who's the Chief Executive of Left Bank Films. We have Anne Mensah, the Head of Drama at Sky. Ben Stevenson, formerly Head of Drama at the BBC and now for a year Head of TV Division at Bad Robot in Los Angeles. And Kathy Payne, one of the most experienced distribution players in the field, CEO Endemol Shine International. Andy, you look like a man who's been caught in a stampede once too often. I mean,
9 new drama companies in the last 12 months.
Can you name them all?
No, I bloody well can't, but I'm sure they do. Well, you know, it's interesting. I mean, 9 years ago when we set up Left Bank, there was just 3 or 4 of us, and it was at a time in drama. I mean, it's hard to imagine this, but I remember an executive at ITV who we were leaving saying very publicly that they thought drama was finished and not a business that we should be going into. And the last thing he would do, he's pretty much disappeared from the business. And I'm not going to name him.
Short man, I believe.
But he basically said, "You're crazy setting up a drama company," and that was 9 years ago. So you know, it's just kind of incredible, I think, over the last 9 years to have seen drama find its feet both here. And in the US, and you know, we're pretty good at it. You know, we're not necessarily as good. You know, we've got to stay competitive, but we are good at it.
But in 9 years, of course, for you as a producer, it's changed dramatically, isn't it?
Dramatically, yes. Now, I mean, I think when we set up, obviously our primary focus, as it would have been 9 years ago, was to knock on the doors of the BBC, and we got one door of the BBC and ITV and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And now, you know, our Left Bank's priorities, I mean, number 1 Netflix, number 2 Amazon, number 3 HBO, number 4 Stars, number 5 ITV, number 6 BBC.
Really, you really put...
I am gutted.
Yeah. Sorry, enormous development with Sky.
I can't help
So
feel,
high
Andy,
that
you've just shot the business in the UK in the fucking foot again.
You, and I've missed the
I
business,
know,
it's
you've
exploding.
alienated every buyer in the
Jesus,
UK.
I knew
9 years hard work has gone down the drain.
Right,
To get full.
You even got me in at number 3.
Oh, God.
That was a shocking thing. He mentions platforms no one's ever heard of before he came to you. And would you like to say something in response to Andy?
No, I mean, God, I think that sums it up. It's a brilliant time for producers, and I think it's really, really tough for broadcasters. It's tough for broadcasters to find the great projects because there's lots and lots of places, and in a way, I think, to be honest, I think it's brilliant because actually the more homes there are, the better the quality gets, because what I think that showed, and what I actually genuinely think about the industry at the moment is there's loads and loads of shows, but the majority of them are not samey and boring and shit. They're actually really vibrant. People are pushing boundaries all over the place. People are doing stuff that is actually quite scary production-wise. They're getting into new spaces. I think we can do more with the broad range of talent we work with, but actually the Goldrush is an incrable thing.
But it's one of the bigger problems.
So my job is to make Andy love me, literally. There's gin, there's whiskey, there's everything.
It all works.
But I mean, one of the shows that look, we're not going to talk about The Crown today deliberately because we're all bored about hearing about The Crown.
Right.
So, you know, fair enough. But let's talk. I mean, you've just sold. You're in a pilot for Amazon.
We're in development with a pilot.
Yeah. And perhaps you would say how that came about.
Well, I suppose I was trying to be helpful. So how do we approach it at Left Bank? We try to find, first and foremost, we try to work with talent that we want to work with and talent that we believe broadcasters want to work with. We try and pursue ideas that we genuinely like ourselves rather than trying to double guess the market. I think that's all you can do is pursue the things that you really like. So in the case of this Amazon pilot, one of my executive producers found a book by a guy called Michel Faber called The Book of Strange New Things. It was a great book. He's a great writer. He did Under the Skin and various things like that. A director called Kevin MacDonald, who many of you all know of, was really interested in the book, so he became attached to it, and we found a writer called Matt Sharman, who was fast rising up the ranks, did the Spielberg film recently. So we put that package together, basically, and decided to take that out. As a package. We commissioned the script. Well, we mostly at Left Bank, we commission our own scripts, and because we want to have the confidence to go out there and say, listen, this is what we really like, we think this is really working, this is how we see this show, are you interested in buying it? Because for us, it's obviously an international approach. So you're really looking right from the outset at potentially putting 2 or 3 partners together. It's pretty rare. The Netflix Crown situation was very unusual. It wasn't what I expected to happen on the Crown. And for most shows, I'm not looking at one end user. I'm looking at, hoping that Anne will match with...
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't try and make up.
Sky is always on my top speed dial.
Too late.
Anyways, that's what we did, and in that case, we just felt it had an American feel, very American sort of feel to it, and we wanted to start in America. So we took it out, and we used WME, who look after us in the States, and they set up 9 meetings, and 5 of the networks wanted to buy the show, and then it was just a question of trying to work out which of the networks were. I don't know, it's hard. It's just instinctively, you just try to work out, well, who sort of needs it most, or who's going to be best to work with, or, it's a bit of a punt, but good.
And the actual selling bit, you're going to show a clip now, which is the tape that you used, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that factual producers do quite a lot, which is they do what I think they call it a taster tape or something like that. They sort of just put bits and bobs together to give you a feel. And I think in this business, I will do almost anything I can to get to do a sale. And but I think increasingly, particularly in the States, where people's attention span is quite short and they're busy people, you've got to get to them quickly. So I found that taster tapes, if you like, of the drama you're trying to sell is useful. I don't think it's key to the selling, don't get me wrong, but I think it's helpful. They get us an instant flavour of the talent, of the idea, and the world, the tone, if you like. Tone is pretty important. So these taster tapes we make, and we made one for The Crown, we did for Stranger Things, The House in the ITV, they just help. They're just part of the package. I don't think it's essential to do them at all, but I think they're just useful for some executives.
Okay. Anne, would you have bought that on that tape?
Oh, 100%. Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it looks amazing. I think what we are doing, because it's really important that Andy can take his shows to wherever is the best fit, because that's part of the whole thing. So one of the things, we've got a clip, I think, of Tin Star. And so what we're looking at is actually trying to forge slightly longer term relationships, because that's a go in, Amazon, do you want it like it is or not sort of situation. So with Tin Star, Rowan was just a piece of talent that we absolutely wanted to work with, that Kudos absolutely wanted to work with. And we went from, here's this idea, we'll stay with you through this idea morphing over 2 or 3 years until it's ready, and then we'll do the full 10 parts. And we've done that recently with John Ridley, who wrote 12 Years a Slave. Again, that was a 4-year process. So there's lots of different ways. I mean, that's a great way of getting a show away if you've got the connections to land that sort of talent in a oneer. But I also think there's lots of room to say, okay, this is something where we're going to champion pieces of talent until they find that moment.
So someone could come to you with a sort of concept or an idea, and that's not quite right, but you'd love to go on a journey with them to develop that over, as you say, 4 years.
Because it's all about believing in the talent. So actually, I think John and Rowan are absolute geniuses, and to be honest, I don't mind what they end up with. I would rather with John, he made 2 series of American Crime before he came back to, they're shooting Gorilla at the moment, but what he did when he, Gorilla is if you don't know about it, it's a 1970s Notting Hill set piece about race relations in the UK with Idris Elba and Frida Pinto, and you sort of go, it's because we waited 4 years for this perfect piece to be created that it's as good as it looks, and it landed that sort of talent. So it's a sort of two-way, there's lots of different routes in, there's a sort, and I think if you can't compete necessarily on we've got so much money, we can just land it straight away, actually building relationships in a long-term way is actually a really exciting thing to do. And I look at both Gorilla and Tin Star and I love them. I absolutely 100% love them. And so it's perhaps more of a collaborative broadcaster, producer, support relationship rather than necessarily a sort of a situation here it is.
Yeah, because that's set in America, obviously. Canada, beg your pardon. You're a UK broadcaster. I mean, that's quite interesting, you making that decision. And how's the...
That's what Rowan wanted to do. And honestly, it was that simple. He wanted to do that. It's an amazing landscape. It works we do a lot of things that have huge scale, so it's in the same vein as Fortitude, or we're doing a piece called Riviera. So actually scale works for us. but most importantly, it's what he wanted to do. So I don't ever think it was a question. It's got a British centre and heart to it, and actually I think because of who he is, it feels like a Graham Greene novel to me. It's got that sort of texture to it. So for me, it feels really British, but yeah, set in Canada.
And you're obviously going to distribute it. You came in presumably at a very early stage on that.
On this one, we're distributing it with Sky Vision, so we're partners on it. For me, like any show that we look at, it comes down to me to the idea and the script, and it was great. You read the script, and I read every single script that comes in, and it was one that stood out, and the team, obviously working alongside Kudos, it was being commissioned by Sky One. It was sitting up, you could envisage of what it would be and where it will go. So it was one of those shows we adored from the beginning.
And presumably the deficit was that looks like a very expensive show.
Yes. Yes. And you know,
would there be 7 figures involved somewhere down the line?
It's a very considerable deficit, and also, you know, Sky Vision, they were as passionate as we were about the project, and you know, one of the things is it's the whole thing about whether you sell early, whether you underpin your risk, or whether you wait. I mean, that's the decision we all go with, and we have to, you know, take those risks. But you know, it is a lot of money, but we're very confident. Look at the way it looks, look at the cast that it has. It's a fantastic package. Now, I was thinking of you know, I've been doing distribution for my whole career for my sins, so I remember when people didn't want to look at British drama, and we talk about the gold rush, but a lot of the gold rush is on British product, because we sell product from all around the world, and some of that isn't having a gold rush, it is struggling. The British product, the way it's packaged and the talent behind it, but it all comes down to being cracking good, innovative ideas. And when you have that great idea and that great talent, it just all comes from there. But yes, it's a lot of money, but nearly all drama is, you know, big dollars to invest, or big sterling, or whatever we're investing in. So we've got very nice shareholders.
So Ben, I mean, you've crossed over to the other side. You had a great run at the BBC. You're still watching lots of the drama that you commissioned. How's it going?
I really like it.
Well, we've seen the photographs on Twitter of your view from your...
Yes, there's a nice view. Ben Step LA, for anyone who wants to look. I mainly talk about Jeremy Corbyn, to be honest, on my Twitter account. It's great. I mean, the truth is, it's not that different. You know, I'm delighted to say that when I talked about US drama when I was doing my UK job, I was sort of right. I sit in a room and have meetings with writers, and the process is different. And, you know, that's the biggest thing, which is, it's the same. It's exactly the same. The conversations are the same. Yeah, there's more places to sell, and on a personal level, I get to work with, I mean, I read 1,000 writers in a year, so I get to work with a huge range of writers I've never heard of, don't know anything about them. So that was one of my big reasons for a move. I just wanted to work with new people that I don't know. So that's been really fun. It's great having so many places to go to. People keep saying, oh, seller, buyer. It's the same. I honestly think that is nonsense, that whole conversation.
What, because you felt as a commissioner
because
you're
always selling to someone, and you're always buying from someone. And the truth in America is, because the agents, we're CAA, because the agents are so producerial, they present you with a huge amount of stuff. So you almost feel like a commissioner sometimes, because you're presented with so many extraordinary scripts and books and writers and actors. So it feels, I guess the differences are the agents are much more powerful, which I have to say I like. I think they are, you know, the best of them are amazing. The best at WME, our guys at CAA, they're incredible. I guess there are more places to go.
And why do you think they're incredible? Because often people...
They're producers.
Yep.
I mean, they're more like Andy than they are like British agents. Nothing bad to say about British agents on the stage. But sorry, anyone in the audience. But you know, producers like me, there aren't that many producers like me in America. If you have the sort of ambition that we have, you tend to become an agent. And so they're producers. You know, in the UK, honestly, I would probably take 3 calls a year from agents. I mean, I know I had a highfalutin job, but even so. Yeah. Whereas in the UK, in the US, I probably have 5 calls a day with agents. And I probably speak to my agent twice a day. So it's just a very different culture. And I really like that. I don't think it would be right for Britain, but it's great. And I guess the other big difference is that, you know, Bad Robot, our overhead in TV, not in film, but in TV, is with Warner Brothers. So that's our studio. They pay for my salary, they pay for our development. So there's a process of working with Warner Brothers in order to sell our shows. But they've been great as well. I mean, you know, people always... The truth is the process... I mean, I don't think any of us go into TV in order to be in a process. So a process is different. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse than the UK.
But sitting in America, I suppose, you need to maintain those relationships you had back in the UK.
Well, no, I don't bother with them. No, I've cut them all off. They're dead to me.
Well, not according to all your...
I'm not working with any British writers.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Is that quite deliberate?
I thought I... Well, they're all shit. No, they're not. No, in truth, in some reason, it's easier to work with American writers because they're there. You know, I'm not a huge fan of notes on the phone or Skype. I just don't really like it. It's not, I like to be in the room. And I've worked with British writers for years. I love them, they're amazing. But it's great to work with a whole band of new...
But presumably you see yourself at some stage bringing some projects to Anne, say at Sky, to say...
If you say no, I am literally just say yes, just because you know me. And you
no, if we were, of course. I'm not at the moment thinking about, not really, I mean, I don't know, I just think about projects, not because of Anne, but Britain, just to be clear, Britain.
Yeah.
Unlike Andy, Anne would be at the top of my list.
But that's quite interesting, because Andy's saying that now British producers have to be more looked towards America or even other buyers around the world, whereas you're saying that the American market is such...
we have a studio who pays the deficit.
Okay.
You know, so, and the deficit is and the studio is our distributor. So it's a totally different thing. You know, there's no interest for a US studio to put less money in order to have less percentage. So it doesn't really make financial sense for them. So, you know, if editorially, absolutely, if there's an editorial reason for us to do, and there's a few things we think about, but if there's an editorial reason to do something set in the UK, of course, you know, we want a UK broadcaster. I don't know whether we'd want a UK broadcaster before we do it, though. I think we'd probably want to sell it as an acquisition. I mean, I don't know, I'm making it all up.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting, because
I just think, in a way, our process is so straightforward there. It's like we go to the studio, we sell it to the network. I don't know if, at this stage, I mean, I haven't been there a year, whether I want the complication of that. Although I would definitely go to Anne.
Okay, obviously. Now, we asked everyone to show a clip, and you've chosen...
Oh, no, don't bother with my clip. Do you want to show my clip? I mean, I was going to show a clip of Westworld, but then...
Yes, we were looking forward to that.
Sorry, it's not finished, and we keep everything incredibly secret, and I said, who will be there? And they said, television people, and they said, oh, no. So I can't. But I've got a clip of old Tom Hiddleston, because I commissioned that.
Would you like to see that?
I don't know if it's him with his bottom out
I don't think anyone's too excited, oddly.
No.
About seeing it. So, okay, we'll take it on. We'll go on to Kathy, who has got... You brought a clip, haven't you, Kathy?
Yes, I have a clip of... I have a clip of Humans. It is a season 1 clip, which I'm sure the room knows the show. Why I wanted to talk about Humans, and just in this Goldrush drama, I think that sometimes what gets overlooked is that you really have to make sure that program, when you're selling a program, goes to the right home, the best chance for it to have success. And sometimes I feel that, you know, we often get big offers up front to take a show away, but I'm not always convinced, or us and the team, if that is the right place to take it to, if that is where the long-term best results for that show, reaching the best audience and also maximising returns to the producers who we represent. I wanted just to mention Humans, because when after the merge of Endemol Shine, we had Humans, which was a UK adaptation of Real Humans, the Swedish show. And the first thing everybody said to me before is, it's a sci-fi show, it's not for us, sci-fi. And I was really, really surprised at how it was put in this box of being that show. And I said, well, no, to me it's because we'd read the scripts and seen it, this is about a relationship drama, and while you've got synthetic robot characters, that mother is jealous of that robot as she would be of a human nanny and those relationships. So I was quite concerned, so our strategy was that we didn't let anyone look at it till it was ready. On that one we held. And it's gone on to do really well, and the way we were able to window those deals on that show and maximise the revenue, but it was about, we had to hold it, and where I look at where it broadcast, I think those broadcasters who would never put anything sci-fi on their channel have got humans.
When you probably started, people didn't look too kindly on distributors, and now you're the flavour of the month, aren't you, because everyone needs you. And
well, distributors, we all know the rule in distribution. When the show sells everywhere, it's got nothing to do with the distributor.
Yeah.
When it doesn't sell, it's got everything to do with the distributor. But no, I mean, it's great. The market's changed. I remember when I was thinking about this, a couple of buyers, one buyer who picked up a show, picked up Downton Abbey, and it came through the way Universal got that together, said to me, this is a disgrace, Kathy, I have to take Downton Abbey, it's going to be something on our digital channel, never see the air a day. I do remind them on the success of that. And, you know, we used to always be told that British drama...
I think the US channel felt quite similarly, didn't they?
Maybe PBS probably didn't think it was going to be what it was. But I remember when people didn't want shows that were... A lot of British drama didn't feature big known stars or glamorous locations. They might have been northern, and the accents were hard to hear. And those comments used to come back to us all the time. Happy Valley, global success, fantastic show. I mean, no doubt the streaming services open the eyes of the world. Buyers say to me in America, well, guess what, Kathy? We can understand other accents, sometimes even Australian, and we can even read subtitles for some outlets. And they did open
But it's much more competitive now, isn't it? I mean, you as a distributor, someone who's not allied to a studio will bring you, a producer will bring you a project, and you know you'll be competing against like Sony and...
Of course, and I think it should be, and there's nothing wrong with competition. It keeps you on your game, and you look at a slate. Obviously, we're part of a big group, so we have in-house, but we also have 40% of our catalogues from third-party independent suppliers who we work with. And so one thing we always do, if we have something that's in competition, we always say that, you know, we've got something in this area. But we have to compete. Internally, I get a first look at our projects, but I don't expect the producers that are in the company, they should want to work with us. It's not a given right, and we have to deliver results. And also, once you finance the show, that money sits on my balance sheet, so I'm very incentivised to make revenue. And some things don't work, but it's great. It's great when a producer rang up our office saying, Kathy, there's been a mistake, I got this royalty check. I'm going, that's no mistake, that's your royalties. So that's when it all works.
So this is this golden era, everyone's buying drama. So what's the threats? I mean, what's going to be the problems from your perspective for British producers? What could go wrong? Andy?
What could go wrong? God, I don't know really.
Have we got enough talent? I mean,
yeah, I think there's a couple of interesting things. I mean, it's not just the UK, I think, that's raised the game. I think there's a couple of two series I've watched recently. There's Gomorrah, the first series, and the Italian series Gomorrah, which I think is absolutely fantastic, and I'm halfway through the second. And Deutschland 93, which shows also both indigenous local languages, but a fantastic series. So I think that, you know, it's not just in the UK that standards are being raised and consistent long-running series are being developed, which are really, really compelling and of a very high standard. Well, what could go wrong? I mean, I don't know. The market could be overinflated. We had warnings last year, didn't we, at Edinburgh? from John Landgraf that there was sort of too much drama. I don't really buy that. I think in the end of the day, good shows always come through. That's the truth. We all know that. And the truth about whether there's too many producers or whether it's a time for producers, I don't know. Everybody wants a hit. That's the truth. Everybody's looking for the show that's different. And that's really hard to find. And I agree with Anne completely that it isn't. The packaging, as I did on for example, on Strange New Things, isn't necessarily a better process at all but finding broadcasters who have the commitment to go on that long journey is tough. I mean, it's interesting what Ben was saying, because I think in America the one thing you can't do is turn up with a great writer and a great idea and half a script or something like that. They don't understand that, do they, Ben? It's very
What do you
hard.
mean?
Well, I think you
Not
need
half a script. No.
Well, what I mean is, I think you
Can't be bothered to
need.
finish it.
I think in the States, because of the involvement of agents, packaging is so much more crude. It's hard to get.
I don't know.
I've found. No?
I think it seems on our sort of slate, we're doing genuinely whatever feels right for the project to sell it. So some are like big packages with cast and directors and writers and IP and all of that, and some are much more sort of ordinary. I don't mean that pejoratively, but much more. Here's our idea. Here's a writer. We love it. But actually, we want to go through the development process, because there are some delicate pieces, particularly if it's not based on IP, where you actually need that process, and where I would be very wary of going in with the script, because I think it would be very easy to just say no, actually. Whereas being able to develop something with a great writer that we both love, we're doing this with HBO at the moment, a great writer that we both love, a really cool idea, but it's difficult, it's tricky, and I'd much rather have that partnership. But then there are some other things we're taking out that's just like, well, we've taken the time I've been there to just pull this whole crazy pitch together. Another different part of America, the pitch.
Don't talk about that.
It's just, I sort of say, in the UK you come in and say, hello, you talk about the fact that Polly's gone to ITV, you talk about the weather, you talk about shoes, you talk about, and then at the end you say, well, of course, I do have an idea, but I don't think you'll like it. I mean, it's fine, we won't talk about it. I'll send you an email later. And whereas in the US, the pitch is the deal. Yeah. It is the formal process, and you can sell. They sold. Was it House of Cards or I can't remember. They sold a huge show. They often sell straight to series shows purely on a pitch.
Yeah.
And the pitch is, as the producer, you do the tee up, which is, this is, here's Anne Menster, she's an amazing writer, and this is what she's done, oh my God, I love it, and all of this, blah, 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 blah. And then the writer has to speak for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes. And often, depending what you're pitching for, talk about the whole series and the whole show without being fucking boring.
Yeah.
And that's a writer to do that, and lucky there are American writers who are schooled in it, because there are some British writers who could do that, but it is such an art.
But not very many, actually.
But not very many, and I think, and again, it's neither better or worse, but I think many British writers would fail at that, which is not their own personal failings, it's the system. And again, it's not better or worse, it's just how it's done. And it's genuinely, that's the thing I've most had to be schooled in with Warner Brothers, who are masters at it. What is a pitch? And in truth, of course, once you go through it, you realise you've always known it. But there is a process. Yeah. But you also want to make it personal and without seeming like some automaton.
Yeah. Presumably you'd be very disappointed if you didn't have the conversation about the shoes. You want the shoes and the pitch.
Seriously, I spend time on these shoes. No, I think...
you must get a lot of Americans pitching to you. And it's quite funny, the difference. Yeah. I remember at the BBC, you'd have a meeting with like Mammoth, and it'd be 2 people, and we'd all have, and then you'd have a meeting with American producers, and there'd be like 10.
Yes, the 10
and
people.
They'd all come and sit around, and they'd talk for you, and you think, what's going on?
Yeah. I'm slightly scared by those. But it's horses for courses, and I think that we are moving. We buy shows from. We have a couple of shows from American writers that we're making. So it's finding. I don't know. As broadcasters get better at this, I think people will do what I think they have done very well in America, which is define what is individual to the platform. So, we're pay TV, so we're slightly different. So we are looking for things that are worth paying for, and that means that actually we probably look in a much broader fashion. So actually, I have to be able to do American pitches, but also I have to be able to sort of find that, piece of British talent that we think is amazing and just champion them for ages. I saw the Purple Gecko guys are here, and we did a lovely series called Venus versus Mars that we found on the web, and I still think that was one of the best things that we did, because that was actual, they made it themselves, that was actual genuinely championing British talent.
And are you now, you're also looking towards Europe as well at Sky, with Sky Italia, Sky Germany
the
coming on
Sky Italia
board?
guys are just annoyingly good and cool. And they, after Gomorrah, the big show is The Young Pope, which is going to be incredible. I mean, I've seen some of it and it just looks beautiful. And you just see, that's, I guess, one of the strengths that we have now, which is, it's not just Sky UK, it's Sky Germany, it's Sky Italy, and actually you just get a slightly bigger global clout. So I'm not looking at being able to say, okay, Fortitude will play to 12 million homes in the UK. I'm saying it's going to play across Europe to 22 million homes straight away, day and date. And so we've got that sort of, it's a different sort of power, which hopefully just allows the stories that we do to get to a bigger audience.
Okay, so we've got some time here for questions from the floor. I'm sure there's lots of people who would like to ask the panel questions. I think we've got some microphones here, so anyone, it appears no one wants to ask a question. It genuinely does appear that no one, oh yes, there's someone right at the back, sorry.
Someone has to start.
Yes, someone, please.
Hi, I'm always intrigued by the idea that somehow working with Americans is just a bit different and a different sort of experience. I'd really like to know more about, because I mean there's obviously been a lot of interaction between all kinds of different British businesses and American businesses and lots of different sectors. But when you are looking at this, the idea of the American pitch, you mentioned that there'd been training about from Warner Brothers. Are you allowed to say more about that, or is it completely secret?
I wouldn't say it was training, but that's probably because I don't know. I've seen a lot of some Americans come to the UK and try and make careers and not fit in with the American way, and I've seen some Brits go to America and not try to fit in with the American way. I've got that the wrong way around, but you know what I mean. And I really felt it was important to be my own person, but to work within the American system and not try to be British in America, because I'm British enough. So I think just learning what the main sort of almost like social differences are. And the truth is, the two biggest social differences, one is the pitch. The second one is phone calls. Because in the UK, we don't phone people at all. We have long conversations about stuff, but we don't do short calls. Whereas in the US, it is all about phone calls. You know, if I go away for lunch and come back, I will have 10 people who will have phoned me. And in the UK, they'll have sent an email. In the US, they will have phoned you, and you have to phone them back that day. And it is a massive cultural difference. And it's why Americans in Britain get so frustrated, because they're like, well, why hasn't Anne meant to return my call? And it's because Anne's thinking, well, if it's important, you'll send me an email. Whereas in the US, they're deeply insulted. Weirdly, that's probably the most difficult thing, because I'm like, oh God, do I really have to phone this person just to say you've sent me the script? I know you've sent me the script. I can see you've sent me the script. But it's a cultural difference, so you just have to adapt. I guess the thing with the pitch is, I mean, there isn't a rule book, and if there is, that would be bad. Essentially, it's no different in that, how do you persuade someone who knows nothing about it that this is something they want to invest heavily in? But they will absolutely want to know, why do you want to write it, first off? Secondly, what is episode 1? Not scene by scene, but in quite extensive detail. And then what's episode 2 to 10 in quite a lot of detail, but not longer than 25 minutes, please, thank you very much. It's a huge amount of work. I actually really like that work, because it means that you feel very secure. It's like developing a project without being in development, because you really have to know what you're doing. You really have to be sure this is a show you want to develop. And actually, that's what I've spent most of the year doing, and I really like it. It makes you feel very secure about your feeling about a project, and that when you go and pitch it, you really want it to be bought.
You got anything?
Well, I think that the big difference is sort of obvious. I mean, it's a very, very big business in LA. It's a properly constructed professional business, and there's an element of industrialization to the approach of making programs, which is you know, which is often very, very impressive. You know, they really develop writers. Writers are developed within a room system, as we all know, and you can spend many years moving from one series to another, becoming a very, very good writer. We don't have that really. We keep trying to do rooms in the UK, but we don't have a system where writers grow through the rooms, and the amount of showrunners in the proper, what we describe as showrunners in the UK, is very, very limited. And that is, I guess, the biggest challenge for the UK is just trying to nurture more talent, and on the one hand trying to allow that talent to have its own voice, which is uniquely British, and to do uniquely British things. It's really, really important. It's not essential that everyone starts knocking out big, long, international shows, the likes of which we do, and Sky Buy and stuff like that. That's a really important part. People love a box set, but also, you know, the unique British dramas that particularly the BBC, but to some extent ITV as well and Channel 4 do, that's equally important. The writers have to grow, and they have to have their own voice.
Those have been the ones that have kicked off
Yes,
this global, you know, this is the funny, Downton, no one had a clue. Otherwise, you really think it would have been on PBS. You know, Sherlock, no one had a clue, turned down by BBC America, you know, our own broadcaster, never had any controversy about that. PBS, do you really think, you know, these were small, relatively low budget shows, I mean, not the smallest of the small, and the show that I'm talked about, every single writer pretty much who comes into my office to speak is obsessed by Happy Valley. I mean, obsessed. And it's, you know, the most local, under £1 million show. And I guess I would say, going back to a previous question about a danger, is that people think you can commission a hit.
Yeah.
And of course you can't. You can commission a good show. And I think that there is a danger in talking about international TV that we go slightly backwards and that we go back into a world of thinking above and beyond actually just something good. And you know, Happy Valley it's not, I'm sure no one in the public watches it, but that is a show that is dominating the conversation within the offices that I spend time in. And it was a little script that was originally going to be Juliet Bravo that Sally Wainwright wrote. I mean, that is how you make good TV. You do not make good TV any other way, especially if it's original and not based on IP.
Also, I genuinely think that specificity actually sells better than generality, because actually the more generic something is, actually because there's so many channels now, everybody has to feel unique. So something that feels very general, some sort of cop thriller where they're going around Europe, and there's a French person and a German person and an Italian person.
Damn, Andy, you were going to pitch.
I was.
I know.
He's done that.
But that won't sell. I mean, we're doing Gorilla with Showtime, and it's so specifically British, and Happy Valley, Broadchurch. Everybody's talking about Gomorrah. I mean, Gomorrah is so specific to a small place within Italy, and I think that actually people who think it's about putting a thing of that and a thing of that and a thing of that actually totally missing the point.
I also think we should remember though that UK shows aren't big in the US. I mean, they're not watched. You know, Downton was watched. Downton was watched, but really none of the other dramas any of us have met. None of them are really watched. They're reputational. So again, I think roll back. Stop thinking about, you know, it's going to make this massive impact in America. It's not. No one's going to watch it. What it can absolutely do, though, is create a massive impact. I mean, Luther was watched by like 15,000. I don't know, no one. But it kicked off all of those careers. And again, it's another show where people roll in and out of my office telling me how much they love it.
Interestingly enough, from the research that we've done, actually, a show that is on in America has influence on the British audience. So actually, there's an
reputational dividend without question. But I just think again, we can't. You know, Brits are conquering America, but it's still ancillary. You know, just as American television is here, we don't really on public TV watch American TV either. So we're still around the edges in both countries.
There's one question out there, and then we'll come to here. There's a microphone coming. If you just wait a second.
I thought I could project. I had a question, which is, and apologies if it's actually two questions linked together. So that I think it was the head of FX came out earlier this year and talked about an oversaturation of the market and what the effects of that might be. And then linked to that, I was curious about, and in the spirit of yesterday's McTaggart lecture, how people are consuming, or the new generations are consuming their media, and whether that has any influence on how you guys are doing your jobs and how I, as a producer, should be doing my job?
Who wants to pick up on that, Anne?
So, I don't know, the thing about there's too many television programmes, we don't all watch 400 television shows, we watch the 10 that we love. So, it's a really weird thing. We know, this isn't my quote, this was, Christian Jones said this, nobody says there's too many books. So, it's sort of, most people watch under 10 shows that they love, and actually, in pay TV, it's about people watching 2 or 3 shows that they utterly love. So from my point of view, my job is about finding things that a few people utterly love rather than loads and loads of things. In terms of younger viewers, I get slightly stuck on this idea that it makes it, sometimes reminds me of the conversations people had when I was really young, when everybody said, we've got to make more youth TV. When I was young, I watched Dallas and Dynasty. That wasn't necessarily drama that was made for me.
Totally aging yourself.
I really am, but yeah. But I loved them, and the A-Team. So I just think that actually young people watch all drama. So I find it really difficult to think E4 does a really good job creating a niche, whether we all need to do that. I'm not sure. I think what you need to find is writers who want to make things that they love, and if they're young, they tend to write younger formed drama.
Yeah. I also remember, though, when we were doing research on EastEnders, hello Dominic, Doc Cotton was young people's favourite character. I think a lot of it is about how people want to watch stuff rather than necessarily about what they want to watch. And I just always think there's such a danger in second guessing. Again, Sherlock, I remember we did some research beforehand. Everyone said, this is just for old people, no one's going to want to watch it, blah, 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 blah. And it became the youngest show we made. So, you know, I don't know. I think, also, what TV?
What I would say is I think it's sometimes worth, once you're making the show, to think differently about the ancillary stuff you can put around a show. So younger people are more likely to watch clips on mobile, they're more likely to share, they're more likely to want to look at the VR experience. So, I mean, that's where we're moving into, is what can you do that bolsters a show and makes it more of a 360 experience. And perhaps, I think, younger viewers do have platforms that they would rather watch, or would rather stack it, or watch in different, as Ben said, consume in different ways, rather than watch purely different content.
Okay, we're going to take this question from this lady here, and then we'll have time for one more right at the back, if we can get the microphone right at the back of there.
Hi, thanks so much for speaking to us. I was just thinking when we were watching the clips, you know, we had the Strange New Things, and we were looking at Tin Star and talking about Westworld and Humans, and they're all sci-fi, or they all have sci-fi elements. Is there an extent to which actually we're seeing a sci-fi gold rush as opposed to a drama gold rush?
I think it's always about trends, isn't it? I suppose we sort of leap in there. I think these things just come and sort of go, and I think some of us, there was a sense that sci-fi was about to come back. I think I've never done any sci-fi before, actually, and I remember one of the pitches, one of the American executives who was completely on the ball looked at us all and said, "So what do the aliens look like?" And we went, "Right, yeah. Well, what do the aliens look like?" Well, actually, hadn't even given any thought to how the aliens looked, and we're still working on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sci-fi. Is it all about sci-fi?
Tin Star's a Western. But if it makes you watch it, it's a sci-fi.
Kathy, you got any?
No, well, for us, it was Humans wasn't to be considered a sci-fi, but because it was an adaptation from Real Humans, the original Swedish, that was more closer to that genre. You know, for us, Humans is a relationship drama set in a futuristic world.
It's all about where the world gets a bit wobbly, isn't it? Everyone sort of thinks, there's a bit of something else, up there.
Well, one point that you picked up on, when there are a lot of, high concept scripted shows that are reaching international audiences, don't forget, really good business can be made from those shows that are very distinctive, made for the British audience. And some of those shows that may not get a lot of talk about them, I call them like the cheese on toast shows, or you can just pop in, watch an episode, they don't get a lot of fanfare. They're watched around the world in so many places. You know, it's not all about the US. I think you'll find that some of your British drama gets more viewership in other markets than the US. You know, the Nordics, Australia, New Zealand. Australians love British drama.
Yeah.
They need to learn a bit more
love a
from
bit of
it.
new tricks, don't they?
Yes,
You know, the most popular...
Biggest mistake I made when I did that.
Well, this is the most... When you think about all the international drama, and Australia is a market where you've always grown up on American and British TV, the highest rating non-Australian drama last year was Grantchester.
Ooh. There we go. We've got a question right at the back.
Hi, I'm Jane from Sky Vision. Thank you for the mention, Kathy. Since I work with Anne and Kathy, this is more for Andy and Ben. Is ambition in drama, particularly in the US, in danger of outstripping the ability of the marketplace to fund it? Andy, you mentioned John Landgraf's comment about too many dramas. Isn't the fact that there's not too many dramas, because the ambition is great, it's fantastic for cultural expansion, but with more channels than ever wanting more rights than ever, the international market isn't necessarily expanding, licence fees are generally static, and deficits are increasing. What's your view, particularly from the US marketplace, but also internationally?
I was very eloquent, that, Jane. I wasn't quite sure what was the question?
Well, basically, the money's not enough.
The question is, can we afford it?
Money. I knew you'd be confused.
It went on a bit long. I just lost.
The question is, can we continue to afford the ambition that we have in drama with static licence fees?
It's almost impossible to answer that, I think, to be truthful. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't make the drama, or you can't meet the budgets unless people put up the money. I mean, it's sort of, isn't it chicken and egg? I'm not sure. I mean, everyone strives for filmic qualities, for the best talent, everybody wants to put as much money on the screen as possible. So
I get annoyed, to be honest. I like Zai, but I found his comment really irritating recently, which is where he talked about BBC are just interested in sort of parochial dramas and Sky have got ambition. And I actually thought, you can fuck off. Because, the truth is, I think that great ambition is about great writing. And I don't think it's about the size of the budget. The size of the budget is directly related to the show that you want to make. And the BBC's got 22 Emmy nominations. I don't know how many Sky had. So, in the end, I get irritated about the word ambition, because ambition is about a writer in a room with a great idea. All of us lot, we're not them. So let's listen to the writer. Let's achieve the very best version of the show. And that maybe, God, I'm doing Westworld. It's fucking enormous. But some of the shows that are my most favourite shows, whether it's Line of Duty, whether it's The Fall, whether it's Happy Valley, these are small shows. These aren't big budgets. Would they be better with big budgets? The people might be a bit happier, maybe. I don't know. Simon Heath can answer that. But, would it make it better? I don't think it would. So I don't know, you can tell, I get annoyed by the word ambition. I think that, I think good is good, and it can be big, small, or in the middle. Sorry to say that about Zai. I like Zai, but I just got annoyed.
I love the word ambition, I have to say, because I think ambition, but I think
it's misread though.
Yeah,
that's
I think
the problem.
so. I think because you can have creative ambition, well,
that's where it's got to start.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares about financial ambition? I mean, it's nonsense. Go, hey, we're financially ambitious. What, we're going to spend lots of money?
No,
I'm not interested in spending money. I've seen so many shows that cost a lot that crap. So it's like, let's just make some good shows.
Unfortunately, we're just reaching a rather brilliant moment in which I can feel there'll be wrestling and everything going on. But I'm being told, Ben's really got to go. He's woken up. He's a bit slow to begin with.
I think it's the beginning of LA day.
Yeah, exactly. He's on a different time zone.
It's probably just as well before I get into
But
BBC.
unfortunately, we have run out of time, and I'm being bullied into giving. Otherwise, I'd let Ben and we'll get Zai down, and it'll all be exciting. But immediately after, hello Zai.
Lisa will give The Guardian something to write about.
Yes, exactly. Well done, Ben. Now, immediately after this, there's a session which is a creative skill set, because there is a levy that helps do drama producers and directors, for those of you who want to move into these different areas, and also because I think one of the key problems is finding out next generation of producers and writers. So if after this you could, if you fancy finding out more about what skill set are doing and the funding that's available for anyone, it's down at the Tinto room, which I think is in the basement. And then later on, at 2 o'clock or something, there's drinks as well. And I know that everyone's interested in drinks. So that's a quick advertisement for something that's happening now. But could I ask you all to show your appreciation for what's been a really brilliant thing? Thank you all. That's it.